there's too many words. It's awesome, it's caring, it's love, the worship, the music. I think we've had great pastors, that makes it. We have great youth leader. We have great leaders in all areas. It's a wonderful home for everyone.
Because that's the hard one. There's a lot of good words. I think blessing might be a really good word. There's so many people who have come and gone just for, whatever reasons, moving or jobs or whatever, but I feel like they've all, just in conversation with them, they've all found different blessings here. They found a home here for the time they were here.
Awesome. I think from the first time I walked in, I felt like this was my home.
Missional. Our mission is to worship God, follow Jesus, serve others, and make disciples. That's how we go about living the good news. And in all four of those areas, that describes Advent Lutheran Church.
Advent. Perfect name because it's always beginning. There's a nucleus of folks who've been here, obviously, some for 50 years, and that's exciting. But the thing that's so ongoing about Advent is that it's so very transitional. It's nothing to take in, 20 or 30 young people, and 2 years later have kissed them goodbye and welcomed in more. And so the name is so befitting because it's always Advent. You're always celebrating the newness, the new beginning, and welcoming people.
In one word.
In one word.
That is a challenge. I would say potential. Because Advent, like so many congregations, is complex because of personalities, the impact of its history, and the people who come, who are new.
I would say the one word would be faithful. I really think that because that's what I felt when I was here. Most of the time I was in worship, but I also spent some time in like adult education and a little bit wandering around with the children and the youth. But faithful is what I would say. There were always people here who were wanting to learn more, wanting to grow deeper in their faith with God, and the recognizing that the walk that we take in our faith, we can't take alone. I mean, we can at times, but for the most part, we have to gather with others. And it's when we gather with others that we learn, we have conversation, we get different perspectives on ideas. It's those times when we can actually form our faith maybe a little bit better, but that we can deepen our faith as well.
Friendly. Just because we feel very welcome here, and we have since day one. It keeps bringing us back, and it reminds us both of our churches at home.
Friendly.
Good
word.
Everybody is so friendly and warm, and makes you feel at home.
I think friendly, supportive. Can't do it in one word. Haven. I just think it is a place where certainly you can worship God and be within a family of faith, and maybe those words help to show the friendliness and inclusiveness.
The friendship of the church.
Family. I have never felt so comfortable as I have when I come here. I'm welcomed, it's warm, I feel like I can be myself.
I think I would say family. When my wife and I moved here, we knew no one in Columbus. It was a brand new city to us, no relatives, no friends here, and we were welcomed here. Advent's a very welcoming church. That might be another word we might use. And it quickly became our family in Columbus, and it's stayed that way for whatever it is now, 30 some years. So,
loving.
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
My first my first Sunday was the first Easter here. And I used to use hand puppets with the children's sermons. And my favorite hand puppet was one called Lammy. Lammy of God. And I had Lammy up on the pastor's seat behind the chancel there, and it was turned inside out so people couldn't see what it was. And God bless Becky Zapes in her zealousness to keep everything tidy and in order. She was cleaning up around the seat and threw out my prop for the children's sermon.
This is a funny story. Jane Bolrath. So Jane Bolrath's retired from OSU. And she has some time, and our old back room in the pre-new building, and we had videos, VHS, and books. And so she took on the project of redoing the church library and organizing the videos. I never noticed this, and she labeled the shelves. I was giving someone a tour of the church, and we went into that back room, which was everything happened there because it was the largest space outside of the worship space. And the gentleman, I don't remember who it was, but he said, this is very interesting. I've never been in a church with this sort of video collection. I said, really? He said, well, here you have, and he pointed to the label, children's videos, and to the right was adult videos. and I had noticed it, but Jane had dutifully labeled and cataloged, and we had children's videos and adult videos. So that was we had a brief moment of pushing the boundaries of what churches should do. Thank you, Jane.
Well, I really want to share the story about how I got here as a woman getting here, and it has to do with Pastor Will and his family. And Pastor Will and Julie were eating dinner one day, and they had their children there with them. They had Kurt and Eric and Lauren was just young, probably 3 or 4 years old. And so they were talking about what they wanted to be when they grew up. And Pastor Will and Julie looked at Lauren and said, Lauren, would you like to be a pastor like your dad when you grow up? And Lauren just came out and said, when God makes me a man, I want to be a pastor. Yes. And so it was this kind of thing that Will and Julie, God love them, recognized that maybe Lauren needed to have someone as, not necessarily maybe a role model, but she needed to see a woman in that role as well. And so that's really how I got here, and it really was a good experience here as well.
Well, one funny story that comes to mind is the fact that when I was first interviewing here, we had a worship service that I was to come and lead and also to preach so that everyone could kind of get a feel for who I am. And so I was back in my office right here, and I was getting ready. I put on my vestments, I put on my robe and my stole, and I was kind of waiting for somebody to come and get me so that I would know what to do and where to go and all that fun stuff. Well, I kept looking at my watch, and it was a couple minutes past the time we were supposed to begin, so I walked over to the sanctuary, and everyone was ready for worship. Jean had already finished the prelude, and there I was, late for my very first worship service. So that was a little interesting. But on top of that, to add even more to